Imagine looking up at the night sky, not at a single glowing moon, but at two, one perhaps brighter and larger, the other smaller but quicker in its orbit. How would this change life on Earth? Would civilizations develop differently? Would science and religion take alternate paths? And what would be the broader implications for history, culture, and modern life? Let's dive deep into this alternate world, a world where Earth has two moons, and explore how it would shape human history, nature, and the destiny of our planet. The formation of a twin moon Earth. To begin, let's set the foundation. How could Earth end up with two moons? In real history, our moon likely formed 4.5 billion years ago when a Mars-sized object, often called Theia, collided with the young Earth. Debris from that impact formed the moon. Now imagine that instead of one large moon forming, the debris coalesced into two natural satellites, perhaps one large, our current moon, and one smaller, orbiting farther or closer to Earth. Let's call the second moon Luna Minor. It could be about half the size of our current moon and orbit faster, completing a revolution in perhaps 10 days instead of 27. Its gravitational effects would be weaker, but still noticeable. From the beginning, these two moons would shape tides, climate, biology, and eventually, history. Ancient civilizations. Under two moons. Imagine being a hunter-gatherer over 10,000 years ago. You look up and see not one, but two moons shifting across the sky. One moves slowly, waxing and waning over weeks. The other moves faster, changing phases more quickly. For early humans, this would be more than just a mystery. It would be a source of spirituality, fear, and mythology. Every ancient culture gave deep meaning to the moon. With two moons, myths would evolve differently. Some civilizations might associate one moon with femininity and the other with masculinity. Perhaps the larger moon would be seen as a motherly figure, and the smaller one as a mischievous child or a god of war due to its quicker movements. Calendars would also look different. The lunar calendar would have to accommodate two cycles. This could make early astronomy far more advanced, or far more confusing. Societies like the Babylonians, Egyptians, and Mayans, already masters of celestial observation, might develop dual lunar calendars, tracking eclipses, alignments and conjunctions of the two moons. Religious ceremonies, harvests, and festivals would revolve not just around the full moon, but around the twin full moons, which might occur together only a few times a year. These rare events would likely become massive cultural events, perhaps celebrated as times of magic or divine connection. The influence on oceans, climate, and ecosystems. Now let's turn to nature. One moon gives us tides. Two moons would give us dual tidal systems. Imagine waves rising and falling from the influence of two gravitational pulls. At times, they might combine into super tides, higher than anything we've known. At other times, their pulls might cancel each other, creating strange low tides or irregular patterns. This could dramatically affect coastal ecosystems. Marine life might evolve differently. Species would adapt to more volatile tidal cycles. Perhaps different coastal zones would flourish based on whether they respond more to the primary or secondary moon. The Earth's axial tilt and rotation could also be impacted. The tug of war between two satellites might create a more stable tilt or make it more chaotic. Seasons might be longer or more extreme. This could lead to climatic changes that shape where civilizations form. For example, if the equator becomes more humid and tropical due to dual lunar influence, early civilizations might emerge farther from it than they did in our history. Two moons and the rise of human civilization. Fast forward to the Bronze and Iron Ages. With two moons dominating the skies, navigation might evolve faster. Sailors could use the position of both moons to guide themselves. With more complex lunar charts, maritime empires like the Phoenicians, Greeks, and Polynesians might expand farther and earlier than they did in our timeline. Astrology and spiritual systems would become more elaborate. Perhaps entire religions would be built around the balance of the two moons, interpreted as light and dark, good and evil, order and chaos. Some cultures might worship both moons equally. Others might prefer one and fear the other. Wars might even be fought over which moon is divine. In literature and early philosophy, the two moons would become rich metaphors, one for wisdom, the other for power, one for mystery, the other for reason. The duality of the heavens would reflect in art, governance, and human relationships. Scientific advancement and the Renaissance. In the Middle Ages and Renaissance, the presence of two moons would accelerate scientific curiosity. Think of Galileo, not just sketching Jupiter's moons, but also unravelling the complex relationship between Earth's two satellites. Newton's law of gravity might be developed earlier due to the more complex gravitational interactions visible in the sky. Solar and lunar eclipses would be more common and more diverse. A double eclipse, where one moon blocks the sun and the other follows shortly after, might occur once every few centuries. These events would shake societies, especially pre-scientific ones, and might be seen as omens or world-changing signs. With better understanding of orbits and lunar motion, space exploration in the modern age might begin earlier. If the smaller moon is closer to Earth, it could serve as an early stepping stone, a natural target before reaching the larger moon. Humanity might establish two different lunar bases instead of just one. The modern era and the space age. In the 20th and 21st centuries, the effects would be dramatic. Tides would influence coastal engineering, agriculture, and even energy production. Dual tidal power plants could be a major source of renewable energy. Coastal cities might be built higher or farther inland, with more planning against the unpredictable tides. In terms of space missions, Earth would become more attractive to astronomers across the galaxy. A planet with two moons is rare and fascinating. Telescopes from Earth would have two natural satellites to explore in detail. One might be used for mining operations, the other for permanent human habitation. Culturally, the two moons would remain central symbols. Nations might feature different moons on their flags. Love songs, poems, and films would have a richer celestial vocabulary. Our metaphors would change. People wouldn't talk about promising someone the moon, but perhaps promising them both moons. What could go wrong? Lunar collisions and catastrophe. But all is not poetic. The gravitational balance of two moons would be delicate. If their orbits intersected or resonated dangerously, there could be risk of collision or orbital decay. A collision between the moons would send debris crashing into Earth. The resulting meteor storm could cause mass extinction. Even without collision, long-term gravitational tugging could shift one moon closer to Earth. The smaller moon, if unstable, might eventually crash into the planet, a catastrophe greater than the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. Therefore, human science in this alternate world would likely develop faster, driven by fear and necessity. The desire to monitor the skies and understand orbital mechanics would be far more urgent. Conclusion: a different Earth, a different humanity. In the end, Earth with two moons would be a very different world, scientifically, spiritually, culturally, and ecologically. Humanity would likely be more advanced in certain areas, astronomy, navigation, and space exploration, but more mystically inclined in others. Civilizations would rise and fall under two lights in the night sky. Stories, wars, beliefs, and dreams would all be shaped by the dance of the twin moons above. Perhaps we would see ourselves not just as earthlings, but as beings forever shaped by dual moons, forever caught between their pulls, and forever inspired by their mystery.